Welcome to the College of Law. So thank you for joining us today. My name is Kelly Koch, and I am the Development and Engagement Manager for the college here in New South Wales. We recognize that many of us are on different lands of different traditional custodians. I would like to acknowledge all the traditional custodians of the lands we are all present on today, and any Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people who are part of our audience. I pay my respects to your elders past, present, and emerging. So today we're going to go through what PLT is and how you can get to this picture on the right, which is Asia, who is joining us today. So also joining me is Yvette Bullis. She is one of our lecturers at the college. Diane Nicholas, she's our client engagement advisor. She will be answering questions while you have them. So if you put your questions into the Q&A box, Diana will answer them for you. And if we don't get to them today, make sure you ask the question with your email address present, and we'll respond via email to your question, and you'll hear from Diane directly. And also joining me is Asia, who is joining, she's on the right. She's one of our recent PLT grads who was admitted in April, I believe. And if I can just get, Asia, if you could get you to introduce yourself and where you are now.
Hi, everyone. So I was admitted at the end of April, I think it was. And I was just telling Kelly, it feels like it was so long ago that I was doing this PLT course, but I'm currently working in criminal law at the moment. I'm loving it. It wasn't my plan, but I'm actually loving it. And I have 2 children. I did the PLT course full time. And I did it online as well. I didn't do the in-person option. And I guess that's probably where it's at now. If you guys have any questions, you can let me know. But yeah, I did it full time and yeah.
Yes, and she did a great job. I also have Yvette. So Yvette Bullis is one of our lecturers. Yvette, can you just tell them a little bit about who you are and what your role is at the college and what you do in life?
Yeah, look, absolutely. So I'm actually looking at the photograph here and thinking that was actually me. So coming up on the 15th of December this year, I will have been admitted for 30 years. It actually was just moving admissions last Friday, which was fantastic. But look, yeah, I've been a lecturer at the College of Law for 7 years now, and also have a really strong background predominantly in litigation. I started off at a really small firm, and then went to a mid-tier national firm and came to the College of Law, and I now still consult to a smaller firm as well. That's actually run by a friend of mine, so it's brilliant. Look, I always wanted to be a teacher, so I've got kind of the perfect job here now where I still get to be a lawyer, but I also get to teach and lecture in, the area that I'm very passionate about, which is practical legal training and really, upskilling and just embracing everything it is just to assist you with your next path in your career as well. Outside of college, look, I've got a really busy life with 3 teenage sons. So if we're not on the rugby field, we're actually often in the hospital. I have to say 2 out of my 3 boys are currently out with, one's just had a shoulder reconstruction from rugby, and then the other one just fractured his shoulder 2 weeks ago. So it's an interesting ride in that respect. And look, I'm an absolute dog lover. I've actually got 5 dogs. And have just recently had some puppies, which has been really lovely as well. So that's just a little bit about me.
Yes. And so where you all are right now is you're on your academic law degree, and the goal is Asia on your right. So our role in the profession is in the middle. We are the bridge between your academic law degree and your admission as a lawyer. And that's actually what our logo is actually meant to be a bridge. Another analogy we use is you built the boat, now learn to sail. One that I like more, my dad is a pilot. So when you go on a plane, you know that your pilot has been in a classroom, learned about how the physics and aerodynamics and how the plane gets in the sky, but you know that he also sat in a plane with really experienced pilots learning how to fly a plane. So that's the analogy we like, but university taught you the theoretical foundations, and we teach you how to put it into practice. So that is our role for you. When you can start, whenever you're ready, we are ready for you. You just need to make sure that you've completed your pre-C11 core subjects and you have less than 2 electives remaining. So you can also, if you finished the last exam of your law degree and you've received permission from the Legal Profession Admission Board, you can begin your PLT early and just make sure that you've received your exam results by the start date. So if you do have specific questions about your situation, you can reach out to Diane in the chat right now. There's also, I'll have her details at the end of this slide, and you can just contact her directly and just chat about when you can start, when you think you can start, and help prepare in the future. There are 3 course pillars to the PLT. So the first is the coursework, and we'll talk about that in just a second, and then work experience, and then continuing professional education. So the whole course starts off with the first week, which is Lawyer Skills Week. And that's when you go through just basic lawyer skills. I guess, Yvette, can you just talk a little bit about what we do in that first week?
Yeah, I can. So it goes for 5 days. Look, we do have different options for that too. You can obviously attend in person, you can attend online. And we're just also trialing a new option where you do 3 days initially and another 2 days later on. So really keeping it flexible, or you can do it at night time as well. But in that first week, the first day we teach you interviewing, which is obviously one of the really core skills that you need as a lawyer. But we teach you a really great interviewing model, and then you get to do mock interviews with your colleagues, where one of you pretends to be the lawyer and the other one's the client, and the client comes along and you work through the interviewing model that we teach you. We then look at ethics and look at a really good model, the ethical decision-making model that really can help you if you are faced with an ethical dilemma. And then on the next day, the Tuesday, normally we move on to problem solving and risk management, and then writing and drafting as well. So problem solving and risk management is, look, I really love that workshop because it really is about you thinking outside of the square as well. And just the fact that clients come to see you about one thing may not be exactly what you think they need to know as well. So we really talk a lot about managing clients' expectations in that workshop as well. When it comes to writing and drafting, I think you'll all be so relieved to hear is that we don't require any Harvard-style bibliographies. We don't require any footnoting. We're really trying to teach you to unravel that university style of writing and actually write in plain English, and really think about who you're writing for. You know, if your client isn't sophisticated in the legal terms, well, then you've got to write in plain English as well. And then in the afternoon on the Tuesday, we go through wellbeing and really focus on trying to give you some great tools just to equip you with success in your work, and you know, keep your wellbeing in place as well. And then you have 2 days of advocacy. I know a lot of students love that, but also find it a little bit unnerving. But look, we teach you how to do simple court mentions. We teach you how to elicit examination in chief, how to cross-examine. And it's, look, a really fun workshop and that one. But look, my favourite one definitely is the negotiation workshop. That's on the Friday. I really like that workshop because we really go through all the different styles of negotiating that you can use, and then use a combination of them. And then part of it, we also go through and you complete a questionnaire. So you actually become aware of your negotiating style. I've always found this, you know, brilliant once I did realise my negotiating style, because I realised where my strengths were, but also areas I had to be really careful on in terms of not giving away too much of my clients' case as well when it comes to negotiating, and being really strategic about the information I do give. But also, I like the fact that once you become familiar with the different styles of negotiating, you can actually then sometimes read the room as well. And I could read the negotiating style of the other lawyer opposite me and then adapt my style accordingly as well. And then normally, if you do attend in person, then you get to have drinks on our beautiful terrace up in level 4 on Friday afternoon. And if it is in person, unfortunately, there's no drinks, but over Zoom. But look, it is designed to be done both ways. Look, I'd encourage you, if you can come to campus, it's great. You really do get to meet your colleagues face to face, but we do ensure that you get to know them really well over Zoom if you do choose to do it over Zoom as well, because you're in a lot of breakout rooms, you know, interviewing one-on-one in breakout rooms and things like that. Anyway, that's about the skills week.
And Asya, anything that stood out to you that first week?
I loved the first week. I did it online, and I really enjoyed the advocacy course, just because I have appeared in court doing mentions, or at the time of doing the course, I should add, I was doing mentions in court, but it was still really good to have somebody give you feedback in this course setting. And there was so much that I was still able to learn. And I think a lot of my peers also liked it, because at uni, we don't really get to do courses that involve a lot of advocacy. It's a lot more theory work. So it's, for a lot of people, it's the first time that they get to learn those skills and put them to use. I certainly enjoyed it.
Good. And now you're kind of doing that in your role as
I
career.
am doing that. And I probably would, I can answer one of the questions in the chat. I think they asked, was I working full-time whilst doing my GDLP? I wasn't working full-time, but I did have my children, which I feel like are a full-time job in itself. And I was doing just minor court mentions, maybe like 1 to 2 times a week. And I was actually doing my last elective at uni at the same time, which was my research thesis. So in terms of the workload, full-time was doable, but it was certainly very manic as well. And I received a direct message as well asking how did I manage doing that with 2 children. And I would recommend only doing it if you can outsource a lot of your other home life. So I had my mum helping me a lot with the kids. I remember I did assignments I was on the way to, we booked a holiday last minute to Dubai, as you do. And then I was like, oh my goodness, I have 2 assignments to do, and I was doing them on the plane. So it was definitely manic, but it was doable. So that would be, my recommendation would be, if you're going to do full-time, make sure that you've got all hands on deck helping you with your other things in life.
That's really good. That's a good tip. And also just make sure, I think if we could put a number on it, we'd set aside about 35 hours, I would think, for the course and the activities. So that is something to consider if you are working full-time and you're a part-time course. After that first week for lawyer skills, we move on to the compulsory subjects. So ethics and professional responsibility, litigation practice, property law, which you'll be doing like a PEXA sandbox. Yvette, can you talk a little bit more about the compulsory subjects too?
Yeah, so look, you do a lot of just different activities and all the compulsory subjects. Ethics is exactly what it is, ethics and professional responsibility. So you really get to know the Australian Solicitor Conduct Rules well. And we start off with that because that's such an important foundation for being a lawyer. Then we move on to civil litigation, which is the subject probably out of the compulsory ones that I enjoy the most, being a litigation lawyer. And look, you get to do real life stuff there. You know, you get to draft court documents, draft court pleadings, do advices to your client, to learn about the different methods of enforcement. Even once you do get a judgment against a client, it doesn't always mean that they'll pay. And look, we give you a lot of feedback. I know that I give a lot of feedback on the court documents and just even different ways how to phrase things in court documents as well. So it really sets you up well for practice. And even if you don't want to be a litigation lawyer, it's still important to know about that side. And then property law, you draft a contract for sale of land, you draft some special conditions, you advise your client. We take you through different steps in terms of the electronic lodgement network that comes into play as such after exchange of contracts, and that's PEXA. And then you actually get the ability to actually go into PEXA in a sandbox and set it all up for a client as well. So it's very hands-on and exactly what you'll be doing in practice. And commercial and corporate practice also has quite a synergy with property practice because, again, you're going to be drafting a contract, but it's a contract for sale of a business. You do vendor checklists, just really important things to ensure that you do have everything in place when settlement does occur for the property transaction. You learn about the important things like due diligence, and then you do a presentation. Also, you prepare it in pairs, which you actually present at your oral assessment as well. And look, that's actually the same with civil litigation. So you draft submissions based on an interlocutory application that you have drafted, notice of motion and an affidavit in support. You actually present those submissions in your oral assessment as well. So those 4 subjects give you a really good foundation on the practical aspects of the law in those subjects.
Thank you. And the next you get to choose 2 electives. Asia, can you tell us which ones you chose?
Well, I actually chose family law and wills and estates because I was determined that I would never practice in criminal law, so I don't need to learn anything about it. So they were the 2 that I did, and I actually thoroughly enjoyed them. I'm still glad that I did them. Especially in family law, I did family law at uni as an elective, but it was completely different doing it at the College of Law because we were doing a lot more practical things, like drafting affidavits and things like that, which I had not even looked at uni. So given that I still haven't practiced in family law, it was, for me, it was a really good, I guess, taste tester to see what it would entail. And wills and estates, again, I thoroughly enjoyed that elective. I think that involved group work, I believe, and I'm still friends with my partner in that. And even though I was saying to the ladies before, I did this course online and I still met a lot of great people that I'm still in contact with now. And I just saw a question now, when do you need to select your electives? I believe you have to select them before you finalize your enrollment. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you can change them by the first week, but we recommend there's so many different ways you could do it. I know that you recommend just choosing something that interests you. So just learning more about different practice area, or if you're working in a particular area, if you're working in criminal law, choose that one if you like, or when you possibly want to have an interest in or want to rule one out. Anything else you'd recommend, Yvette?
Yeah, look, I guess look, it definitely is. I mean, if you've got something that you're really interested in and want to practice in that area, then it's great to do that. But also by the same token, I think sometimes it can be your last chance just to do something. If you, for example, like criminal law is probably my favorite elective. I love it. Look, you learn how to do a bail application. You learn how to write to the DPP, asking them to drop more serious charges against your client on the basis that your client will plead guilty to lesser charges. And then you actually learn how to prepare a plea mitigation on the basis that your client is pleading guilty early. And then put forward reasons why the magistrate or judge who's hearing the application should give your client a lesser sentence than what they might ordinarily get as well, which is something that you then present in your oral assessment as well. So look, it can be a combination of the two. Just work out what you are really interested in that may help your career, or just something that you're just particularly interested in and want to kind of have that last chance just to learn about an area that you may never wish to practice in, but you're just interested in learning a little bit more about it.
And if I could add to that, on that note, I just remembered I had a client that was asking me for family law advice, but I don't give family law advice. But in this particular instance, I thought I'm just going to quickly go back and check my College of Law resources. And then I went through the practice notes. I ended up printing them all out. I spent $200 at Officeworks printing them all out. I've binded them, but they're here on my desk. And I actually constantly refer to them just when I want to kind of get an understanding of what's going on with my clients if they've got some family law matters. And I'm still using these resources. So it was actually really useful for me doing those electives at the college.
That's well, Asia, you should not have printed it out yourself.
We could have just sent you a copy. That's okay. We do. Look, we do. You do have the option, like it's all online, but we do print them out as well.
Well, now I know. And I made
okay.
the mistake of asking for color printing. I should not have asked for color printing.
That's okay.
They're industry famous. So everyone loves their practice papers. People have them from 30 years ago and refer to them in practice. They are wonderful and we update them constantly. So as there's changes in the law, we update them, but it's really great. So it's something you can always refer to in practice. I saw a couple of questions come through from people asking if you have to have previous knowledge of the area that you choose an elective in, and absolutely not. So we're not going to ask you quiz you on cases that you might have learned in uni. This is how to put everything into practice. So you're going to be learning brand new things. So no need to have any previous experience in that area to choose an elective for that. So the way that the course is structured, like I said, there's no essays, no lectures, no exams. It's all simulated legal practice. So advocacy, client interviewing, these are all done in kind of a workshop environment, role plays. The drafting you will be doing and then getting a lot of feedback on it, a lot of personalized feedback. Yvette and Asia, do y'all have any comments on the activities that we do or anything that you recall from your course, Asia?
Just when you mentioned feedback, I thought that was a really valuable thing with College of Law, because I feel like the feedback is a lot more dynamic and it's kind of like a chat Whereas uni, it's just, here's your feedback, that's it, don't ask any further questions. And there were a couple times where I would sort of give my own feedback back to the lecturer, and it would be a back and forth thing. But it was, you certainly get opportunities to ask questions in relation to your feedback, and you build on that feedback, resubmit your work, and then it's it's just a lot more, I guess, what's the word for it? You get to work a lot more closely with your lecturer than you would at uni. And yeah, sorry, I'm not really articulating that very well.
You had Michael Apple, I believe.
Yes, I had Michael, but I'm sort of thinking of that particular instance with Ash.
So, I think Ash had sent you some feedback, and then you had additional feedback and questions for Ash, and then I got to introduce Ash and Asia in person, and they always met. But Yvette also, so I mean, she has a very close relationship with all of her students, all of you. I mean, if you want to, it's up to you and your students. And if you have questions, you can always get in touch with your lecturer. And it's really how you can be as involved as you want. I know that Yvette still keeps in touch with so many of her students and has gotten to cheer them on through the different stages of their careers. And I've had so many people, just even on when I bring people in like Asia, that say, oh, Yvette, I had you, which is quite interesting over such 7 years to have so many people that I know that had you as their lecturer. But anything else you'd like to say about that, Yvette?
Yeah, I think as Kelly said, look, it's up to, I know I always really enjoy keeping contact with my former students, and definitely, you know, we always connect on LinkedIn. But when it comes to feedback, look, it is a really important part of your learning process. I know I always say to my students, look, if you have to resubmit a task, don't look at it as being a failure as such. Look at it as getting extra value for money out of me as a lecturer, because you're getting someone who has got, you know, coming up to 30 years experience in the law, giving you, really going through everything, giving you really valuable feedback. And, you know, I always welcome the opportunity to talk more about it. And, you know, if you have any more questions, or, you know, I like to pick up the telephone and have a chat as well. Or, you know, so it is a really important part of the course as well, getting that feedback and really looking at, and I always like to point out what I think you've done really, really well as well. So you won't get that as, you know, you won't get that really short university style feedback. You normally get very detailed feedback. I mark it up in documents, put comments in there. Yeah, so that's sort of just about the feedback. And yeah, look, you know, with your lecturers, you know, we're there to really assist you. We're not there to sort of trick you up or anything. We're there to like really help you succeed. So I really look at that as being my job, really just helping you to succeed and flourish. And then learn the, you know, all the practical skills that are really going to equip you when you do start in private practice, or it could be in a government role, it could be in-house counsel. You may not even choose to, you know, to be in an illegal area, but it's still really worthwhile. I always say to everyone, if you've done your law degree, do PLT and get admitted.
Yeah. And also just kind of, Asia, you'd mentioned before that you were glad you'd gotten some practice before, you know, in PLT before going into real practice. It is a safety net, really. So it's a safe place to practice these skills before you go into a courtroom. Is that kind of...
Yeah, definitely. Even just the fact that you have peers as well that are sort of watching you online, I guess you can say, it's good practice if you're scared of public speaking, or you've never really, you really are out of your depth when you're talking for the first time in court. So it's good to have a practice run through this kind of environment. And it was just a lot of things that I know I say, for example, I say that way too many times. And it's little things like that that you may not necessarily pick up on, but your lecturer will be able to give you feedback, and then you can remember that and take it into a real courtroom when the time comes.
Thank you. So it is just practical skills that you're learning. The way that you learn, you do a lot of role plays, interviews, negotiations, and you aren't assessed by, I don't even want to say assessed, it's different. So you'll be doing conversations. So the way that we'll call them oral assessments, which is nothing to be intimidated by. It's just a conversation. So you sit down with your lecturer who is acting in a role as your supervisor, and they ask you, what would you recommend that we do? And you're going to tell them what you recommend they do and why. So just showing what you know. Can you tell us a little bit about how you run those conversations and the feedback that you give?
Yeah, look, I love the format of the oral assessments. Look, I understand students are always nervous when they go into them. And I guess part of my job I always see is just to really hopefully allay any nerves. But I like the fact that it's a really good opportunity to just to do quite a deep dive into your real understanding in a subject. And if I do see there's sort of some areas that I could help you to reconsolidate on, or just, I guess, give you just, quickly teach you a little bit more about the subject, I look at the oral assessments as being a really good avenue for that. I guess, like everywhere, like you'll get different oral assessors all the time. You won't always have your core lecturer, and each oral assessor may approach it slightly differently. In the same way, if you're appearing before different judges, they all do things a little bit differently or have different personalities. I like mine to be very conversational. And I always encourage, like at the very beginning, I say, look, just talk as fulsomely as you can. They are open book, but you don't have much time to really have a look in your resources. And you definitely don't have time to Google and things like that. Look, we can tell if you are Googling, and it's, that's not what it's about. It's about us checking your understanding. So we don't expect you to be discussing the case law. Occasionally we might ask a little bit of legislation, but that's more around like the Australian Solicitor Conduct Rules in ethics. Well, there's a couple of things that we really I think are really important for you to know in civil litigation, but it is more looking at your understanding of the really key concepts and the key learnings behind each of the tasks and exactly why we have set them. For example, one of the very first tasks that you do is really looking at the importance of confidentiality as a lawyer, which you'll learn all about. And so that's one of the questions I always ask is, look, so tell me how important, what is the importance of confidentiality and legal practice, and why is it that there are such limited exceptions where you can actually disclose your client's confidential information? So it really is about that, just finding out your key learnings and then just reconsolidating that as well. And it's a great format in that, let's say, for example, look, it's done over WebEx and it's recorded. And in the very, very unlikely case that you don't pass the oral assessment, that video is actually watched by another lecturer. So I actually review a lot of the oral assessments where a student may not have passed. And it's then, so we have a safeguard. So it might be then I might sort of think, no, look, I think this student does deserve to pass, or it may be confirmed as not being a pass. Then all that happens then is that your lecturer will give you some mentoring and guidance, and then you get to sit the oral assessment again. So you don't have to redo the whole subject at all. You just get to resit the oral assessment again. So it's a really good format in that respect, definitely.
Asia, anything that stood out or that you remember from that?
I actually was with the oral assessments. I remember I found them at the start. I was so nervous and I thought this is going to be so intimidating because I've never done an oral assessment like this. But like Yvette was saying, it's actually very conversational, and I found them very useful just to consolidate my knowledge or recap what I'd learned. And a lot of the times, if I didn't know the answer to a question, I found it useful because the assessor was actually then taking the time to explain how to get to the right answer. But overall, I think if you don't know, if you do the coursework and you pass all your assessments, you will be fine to undertake the oral assessment. It's a lot of the questions were based as well on the individual assessments. I remember my assessor would say, okay, we're going to look at assessment 1 now and then ask you questions about that. So it's nothing to be intimidated by. And it actually is very useful to recap after the end of each subject that you do.
So now work experience, the second course component. So you have a couple of options. A lot of people do so you need 75 days total. A lot of people source this on their own, and you can claim all that. You don't need any additional program. You just need to make sure that 15 days are done after you start your PLT. You can do 60 days up to 2 years prior to starting your PLT with us. We have all those documents on our website. We can actually send them to you following this webinar. But so you can just even start getting all your work experience forms approved. Send them to us even, a year before you start your PLT. We'll keep them for you, and whenever you start, they're there for you, ready to go. We also, if you do need help finding 60 of the days, we have a course where you can do, it's the clinical experience module. and that's like a simulation for 60 of those days. And then you find 15 days on your own. And when I say find them on your own, we do have a jobs board, hundreds of jobs at the moment listed. We also have 2 career advisors. So if you do need help, with mock interviewing, resume, CV, just even coaching sessions on just learning what you want to do, what you want to work, where you want to work, we do have all those resources available to you. So you will find something, but we do also have this course to help you. It's the additional 6-week online program. But if you do not need that and you want to source 75 days on your own, you got that. You just need to fill out the work experience forms, which are on our website in the download section, and just send them to us and get them signed off for your supervisor as well. The next one is continuing professional education. So this is the last part of the course. And this gets you ready for, we have a lot of acronyms in the law, CPE, CPD, or CLE. So yearly, the Law Society tells you that you need to do 10 hours a year of continuing professional education. This part of the course just gets you ready for that. And we have chosen to focus on legal tech and business skills, and you can get an additional certificate of legal tech and business following this. And it's 10 hours, it's self-paced, so you can do it in a Netflix binge or just gradually, just kind of on your own time. It's all online through our learning portal.
It's also free.
It's free, yes, that's part of it. So I am seeing some questions on length of the course. So like Asia, she did the course full-time, that's 15 weeks. Part-time is 30 weeks. So as we said before, if you do the course full-time, just really think about your life situation before doing that. Asia had a lot of support and she killed it. She did great. But just make sure that you do have that support and the time in place to spend about 35 hours a week on the course. If you do the part-time course, it's 30 weeks, and it's between about 15 hours a week that you can set aside for that. We also have a new kind of intensive course that it's 2 weeks up front. So you have 2 weeks of full workshops, and then the rest of the course is 16 weeks, but on a part-time basis. So I'm pretty excited about that offering. That's brand new. We've just rolled that out this week, actually. So we'll have that one, I think, another offering of that in July. So that is a really great opportunity. And you can do all of your workshops. We also have an option where you can do them split. So over 3 days and then 2 days, or evening. So where it's just between, I think it's 6 and 9.
Yeah, so if you do the evening course, it's every Tuesday and Thursday night, you'll sit the skills workshop, but it's sort of double the time, as in it's over 10 evenings, because you only do 3 hours, so from 6 to 9. But what the evening course actually means is that the oral assessment, so if you do any other form of course, your oral assessments are between the hours of 9 and 5. But if you do the evening course, then your oral assessments are between the hours of 6 and 9 at night. So it's, and look, I have to say the workshops, I've taught across everything, and the workshops with the evening course, look, we do appreciate that a lot of people have already had their full day of work as well. So we do, when I say modify, I think we just try to make it, fun, just as interesting, but we do, look at ways just to assist that fatigue as well. So we just sort of sometimes need to employ a different way of running that workshop as well. I've sort of got really good at reading the whole lot of Zoom faces and going, right, I think I need to stop this now and give you a chance to go into breakout rooms and talk about it as well. So we've got that. I know there is talk at the moment. You have to watch this space, but we may be doing the workshops that 1 week intensive. We may actually be doing some on weekends as well. We haven't yet, but we're just looking at the most flexible fit. We just want to be able to, and if there's a real need for that, then we will. We just want to provide the best fit for our students coming forward. And we know that, look, some of you can't take a whole week off work either. So that's why we're sort of looking at all these different flexible options as well.
If I can just add to that in terms of flexibility, I did actually sign up to the full-time 15-week course, but it actually ended up taking me closer to 18 weeks, I think it was, because this particular trip to Dubai, I had a oral assessment scheduled for one of the days that I was traveling, and I just couldn't for the life of me connect to the internet. So I actually ended up having to reschedule that assessment. And then I think I did it about 3 weeks later. So there's definitely a lot of flexibility in terms of sort of structuring the course around things that may happen in your life, or if you wanted to change from full-time to part-time because you can't cope with the workload. But that was just something that I also remembered.
Yeah, and look, I can say that that's a really good point. Look, I've had students that are traveling overseas who still continue to do the course. So I know one of my last courses, one of my students is actually traveling around Australia. So in the skills week, you'd be sitting beside this beautiful river fishing, or, you know, something to that effect as well. So look, it is just designed to be done anywhere in the globe, essentially. As long as you've got internet, you can do the course. So you don't have to be in Australia to do it. Obviously there are certain exceptions. Like we do have our on-campus course as well, which is fantastic. That's the full week first, and then it's from 9 to 3, 3 days a week. And you basically do all your tasks on campus as well. You get the lecturer who runs it is fantastic, Tanya, and then you'll get a lecture in the morning on what the tasks that you're going to be doing for the day, and I guess the law behind it. And then you get some feed forward on the tasks, and you sit down with colleagues. I think we've got about 20 people at the moment on campus doing that. And you collaborate and work on the tasks as well. So that's another really great option to think about.
So yeah, I mean, and you do have the options of doing everything in person, online, blended. And it's, no matter what you choose, it's not necessarily, even if it's distant learning, it's not really distant. I met Asia via Zoom during her welcome in a sea of 100 faces or 150 faces. And she has really stood out, and we even connected afterward. And Asia made a lot of great relationships as well throughout the course. So it's really whatever you want to make of it. But we give you lots of opportunities to meet with your lecturer, meet with your colleagues in your cohort. There's also huddles, which are optional. So that is where you can kind of check your understanding with each other whenever, weekly, whenever you want to attend. They're not mandatory, but just check in with each other and just make sure you check your understanding of everything. We also have intakes every month. So whenever you're ready to start, you will never have to wait long between courses, no more than a couple of weeks, really. The only thing I'd be mindful of is I'd recommend that, I mean, you can take your course anywhere. So you can choose a PLT course anywhere, but I'd recommend choosing it in whichever state that you want to be admitted. This is because it gives you a chance to network within that cohort and with your lecturers, with people in that state who will be your colleagues and who you might see in court. Do you have anything else to say about that, Yvette, Asia?
Yeah, I think, look, I think that's a really good point, because we've got in every state apart from Tasmania, although we are going to be studying a course in Tasmania as well, we've got College of Law. So I think the really important thing about doing it in the state that you intend on practicing in is that some subjects are, sort of national. For example, employment law, the Fair Work Act, that's Commonwealth legislation. But a lot of the subjects, they're actually state-based legislation. So it is worthwhile then you'll actually be learning the state-based legislation, which isn't our primary focus, but it is geared more towards, the law in that particular state as well. But it's not fatal by any chance at all whatsoever, because you can still do the New South Wales course. We definitely have the largest offering and the most frequent offering. You can still do that and then get admitted in your state. I think, remind me, Kelly, is it just not South Australia, or am I thinking of something incorrect there?
So South Australia, if you want to be admitted in South Australia, you will need to do the South Australian course, which we're in the Adelaide CBD. I think I actually have I'll have a map in a second showing where we are. But we really have a lot of resources and support for you while you're studying. As you can see, Diane, who's in the background, she's our customer engagement advisor. She's busy answering your questions right now. And you can contact her throughout your enrollment process. And we also have a student support team as well while you're a student. Asia's nemesis, Ash, is next to lecture. So Ash gave Asia some feedback, and they were able to kind of work out what she thought was fair, what he thought was fair. They have a really great discussion and got to know the person, which was fun for me to see.
We're great friends now.
I know, they're wonderful. Popular one. Also, we have mentors available to you through College Connect as well. We have flash mentoring available. So College Connect is a platform for our students and alumni. It is, you think, LinkedIn only for our alumni. And a really cool feature on that you cannot find anywhere else is a flash mentoring feature where we have hundreds of people who have a banner on their picture that says willing to help. And you can filter by people who work in certain practice areas. and reach out to them for a coffee or a quick Zoom session, or even just to text them or message them with a question that's, practice area related, industry related. And that we have hundreds of people who are happy to help, who are in our alumni or lecturers. And we also, I think I discussed earlier, we have 2 career coaches. That's Susan Pincus, who's pictured right there. And you can have access to them throughout your studies, unlimited coaching sessions. So whether you're doing mock interviews, resume advice, or you want to just have a career coaching session, or information about branding yourself, you can have as many appointments with them as you'd like while you're studying, and then up to a year afterward. The majority of lawyers in Australia have come through us. So we've been around for 48 years. I think it's actually 49 maybe this year, but the 77% of law students come to us each year. So you will not have to look far to find a College of Law alumni to ask them what they think of it. We have a great group of alumni. Over 100,000 lawyers in Australia have come through us. And the majority of law firms, 30 plus law firms, trust us to exclusively train their graduates. And here's the map I was talking about earlier. This is where we offer our course. So we are in 20 locations. We try to go out regionally and reach people everywhere. And we use local practitioners too. So if there's something that is not listed on this page, if there's a big group somewhere, a group of 5 to 10 that you think we need to come out there, just let us know. And we want to make sure that we're coming to people where you are. So we want to bring the course to you. And we discussed earlier the options for work experience. So if you do the 75 days that you source on your own, that you just pay for the PLT, and the price is right there for citizens and PR and for international students. If you do choose to do the optional 60-day course that you do 15 days work experience on your own, that's an additional fee right there. And we do have one as well that we're not offering for, I think, past this year, but we have a course that takes care of all the work experience. This was brought out during COVID when people couldn't get into an office to do work experience, but we will not be offering this course permanently. So these are just showing you do not have to wait. These are when we have intakes. So we have multiple intakes every month, and you do not need to wait more than a couple of weeks between intakes. I'll leave this on for a moment. This is a QR code you can scan to get your guide. And then on the next page, I'll have a code that you can scan to get in touch with Diane, who has been answering your questions in the background. But just while we're on this page, Yvette or Asia, any other closing remarks you'd like to make?
Probably just in terms of networking, I saw some comments in the chat that people were concerned about if they chose the online course. I did the 100% online course, but there were still plenty of opportunities to network in person. It kind of just depends on how much you want to take up those opportunities. So I remember I attended an event with Kelly. There's another event that I went to. I think it was a legal tech seminar. So there's lots of opportunities where the College of Law puts on events, and you can RSVP if you want to attend, or if you don't want to attend, you don't have to. But there's definitely plenty of opportunities to network. I am really happy that I chose to do College of Law. I came from UNSW. I'm a very proud UNSW alumnus. I've done 2 degrees there. So I know they offer the PLT as well, but I think the biggest advantage from doing it through the College of Law was the networking opportunities for me. And that's the reason why I'm actually here today as well, purely because of the networking that I've had with Kelly and so many other staff members at the college. So that's definitely not something that you have to be concerned about if you choose to do the 100% online course.
Thanks, Asia.
Yeah, and look, can I say on that? Look, it definitely is the case that you can still get the opportunity to network if you do it 100% online, because we pop you into breakout rooms a lot during if you are doing the Skills Week online, you actually get a chance then often just to chat to people that way as well, and you can choose to connect as well. And even when it comes to some of the tasks that we do that you do have to do either in pairs or there's one in a group of 4, and then you get to chat with people and network in that respect as well. And I guess it's also just about putting yourself out there then. If you're both in living in a similar area or both working in the city, then you can catch up for a coffee. And look, I've had students that I've done online courses with, And then, I've met up with them for coffee, or, it was lovely when I was moving admissions last Friday, and some of my students that were from online, that they were there as well. It was lovely to meet them in person as well. So that's a great opportunity with that. And probably just one other thing I want to mention is, only because we do get a number of police prosecutors that do come through the College of Law. If you are a police prosecutor, then you can actually get exemption from some subjects as well. If you've been a police prosecutor, I think for at least 3 or 5 years. So then you just contact the LPAB, and they can give you some exemptions from, for example, you only have to do 1 elective because you're an absolute criminal law specialist as well. So that we do have a separate course, which I run with another lecturer, called the PART program, where you'd actually come into that, and that's very much self-paced as well. So you don't have a set period of time to do it in, other than the course each year goes up until the 31st of March the following year. So there's just so many different varieties and ways that you can do the course, definitely.
Thank you both. Thank you both for joining me and helping me with this presentation.
Thank you for having me. If anyone has any questions, feel free to drop me a line on LinkedIn. I'm happy to answer any questions if there are any parents out there that are wondering what type of study load they should take on.
Thank you.
Yeah. And likewise, please connect with me too. You're really welcome to. And I think, look, it's a really great way for you then to build your networks, but I'm really happy to field questions as well, definitely. And having run the part-time, full-time courses on campus evening course, I can talk you through the different options as well, definitely.
Thank you. And so Diane has been busily answering a lot of questions. I know that you've been able to get
a lot.
There are hundreds.
Yeah.
She will respond to you. And if you want to schedule a chat with her, there's a QR code right on the screen, and you can schedule a chat with Diane directly. You can also email me. My details are there. And do please connect with me on LinkedIn. I had the best job at the college. I get to cheer everyone on and continue to stalk them like Asia. No, just kidding. But support you through your career. And yeah, I look forward to seeing you all here. Bye, everybody. Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.
Thank you.